Several have asked how I make these cool little do-it-yourself drum pads. They're really simple, and I want to give a disclaimer here. I'm sure at some point I got this from someplace else. So if there's someone out there saying, hey, I did that first, I'm not trying to steal your thunder. I'm sure I got the idea from somewhere, but it's been lost in memory. Basically, all this is 3 parts, and I'll show you. Basically, all you need to make one of these drum pads is a chunk of plywood. It's about a 1/2 inch thick plywood, cut 8 by 8 or 7 by 7, somewhere in there. And I got this plywood free because our industrial tech guy was repairing a broken chunk of our gymnastics floor, and this was just that plywood that had broken, and we just took it and cut it into these little pieces, so that was free to me. You also need old mouse pads, and preferably the kind of mouse pads that are this kind of grainy, rubbery stuff that has a consistency of, you know, like smells like rubber, feels like rubber, like kind of like a soft tire. And I got these free. There was a bunch from our tech coordinator that were, you know, like this, that the cover was coming off and they'd replaced, and they were just sitting around. And I prefer this. I'm preferring this kind because it has a little bit of give to it. The kind that feels like a foam pad, they didn't work too good. Some rubber cement, little plug for Elmer's right there, and your choice of colored or not colored duct tape. Our school colors are white and red, but they didn't have any white at the hardware store, so I went with black, which is kind of another color in our school. So, first thing I did was I peeled off the remaining skin. Now, you don't want the skin on there, and if some of that happens, you know, or takes some of the rubber off, that's cool, as long as it doesn't go all the way through. Just keep peeling it off as carefully as you can, hopefully not tearing it, because this is my last mouse pad. Success. You just throw that bit of cloth away, and then you're left with this. Now, doesn't matter which side you glue down. I glue the nice side down so that most of the, you know, surface is easily glued. Take your rubber cement, and you be very, very careful and very scientific in your measurements here, and slobber some of that on there. The rubber cement works better, I think, than using like Gorilla Glue or Elmer's glue, because it is meant to work with this material. Gorilla Glue, Elmer's glue takes a long time to dry, and it dries hard. And stuff about rubber cement is it dries flexible. Anyone that's ever used it on paper know that it works really, really well on paper. You know, you want a good amount on there. And you take this piece. One thing I didn't do was cut it. Now, I'll do that quick. You want to cut it so that you have a little bit of a rim. So get roughly a square. And you can be more detailed and spend more time and make it look fancy and make it look real clean. But for this, I figure this is good enough. And press it on there. Now you have your basic pad here. Now, the reason for the tape is mainly so that you have a surface that can take the pounding. And with this kind of surface here, you know, you get pretty good bounce, but it also grabs the stick a little bit. This rubbering surface kind of grabs the stick. You can feel it when you're hitting. So what I do is I take the duct tape and I just stretch it across. Now, I did experiment with how many layers of duct tape to put on, because I was thinking maybe I should have several layers. The problem with that is I lost some of the bounce, and you know, you don't want it to feel like you're hitting a sponge, but you also don't want it to feel like a tabletop either. And this is, you know, not as good, I suppose, as a store-bought one, but I was frankly getting a little fed up with paying 20, 30 bucks, even 10 bucks for essentially a piece of this material adhered to a board. And, you know, I'm not knocking drum companies. It's kind of a quick and dirty demonstration of this, but then you get... It feels a little spongier than a concert snare, but it feels good. It worked really well for us. And I made about, I think this would be number 17 for the cost of 2 rolls of duct tape. And, you know, granted, the plywood may not be free for you, and you know, you may have to scrounge for the mouse pads, but my suggestion would be call around. If there is, you know, someone that's doing some construction, I'll bet they have some, or if they're getting their roof redone, they have some of that plywood just lying around. It doesn't take much. Just chop saw it. And the mouse pads, if you just even talk to your kids, I'll bet some of them's got some mouse pads lying around. Go on eBay. I'm sure that you can get someone's old rubbery mouse pad for like $1.50, and they'll pay for the shipping. I don't know. Now, I suppose you could be real creative with your drummers. You could make the pad size smaller if you wanted to work on stick control. That they would only hit the lump in the middle. You could make it really, really small with a big pad, because you can obviously hear the difference when you don't hit the pad. You can hear it. So, but for right now, we're just using them as pads. So, here's the one I just made. Here's the original. And we have beat the living snot out of these things. And they have, you know, this is one that we used today, and you can barely even see where the sticks were. And we were really taking these to task today. And the wrinkles are just there, I think, because it's cold. Anyway, that's my do-it-yourself drum pad. I hope everyone finds it useful. Happy teaching, happy music, happy day.